a regional strategy consulting business who over the last 3 to 4 years are increasingly working with Nordic and Baltic businesses and organisations as we've sort of seen the sort of pent-up demand for innovation in the UK. I think the UK is still very, very much open for innovators, for people with new ideas, and we've seen in our experience that the Nordics and the Baltics tend to be at least 2 to 3 years ahead, if not more in some areas. But if you look at this sector, probably more than 10 years. But I think there's a great opportunity. Language is straightforward, as most people in the Nordics and Baltics speak English, thankfully. But also I think the UK is a good landing point for businesses who want to go further afield. If you want to tackle a big European economy, I'm German by nationality, I wouldn't go to Germany first because it's tough. It's really, really tough. Like, you know, to get foothold in Germany, you might, as good as you are, it's going to be difficult. In the UK, I think, as long as you do your homework, as long as you prepare for the marketplace, you understand what is the demand for my services, what's currently happening in that place, what do I need to do in order to be successful, I think you'll have a really, really good chance. And I think Sweden has done tremendously well over the last few years. If you look at Klarna, I think it's a great success story. You know, came to the UK and from nowhere has become an absolute major player in UK financial services, which is, you know, fantastic success stories. And so we work a lot with innovation ecosystems, and in particular we are sort of operating across the UK rather than London. As important as London is, you know, it's the first step for most organisations who sort of like get a foothold, want to be there. But London is tough. London is, you know, it's also about nobody cares if you're here. Nobody cares if you're gone, because you're one of thousands of innovators, of entrepreneurs. If you're successful, great, but do people actually care? Not sure. In the rest of the UK, there is real demand. There is, you know, there's some of the innovation ecosystem outside of financial services and professional services, which is what London is all about. If you look at green tech, if you look at health tech, med tech, if you look at manufacturing, there's some amazing investments happening across the UK now. And in those regions, Manchester is a great example, Leeds another one, Bristol, Birmingham, Newcastle, where we've seen huge amount of design to attract people like you, because they want you to be successful. They want to be seen as a great place to attract inward investment, to drive innovation, and they're also not bad places to live. The quality of life, affordability of life is a lot easier in the rest of the UK than it is in London, and you're still only usually no more than 2 hours away by train. So it's you know, the UK is quite a small country, and I think the opportunity across the UK is massive. And if you look at that sector alone, I think, you know, the world is your oyster. There is so much opportunity in regards to green tech across the UK. And of course, that links into financial services. We've just been involved with the accelerator with the FCA, the City of London Corporation, in regards to sustainability and finance. Amazing what kind of innovation is happening in that field now to actually get green investment, for example. And you look at health tech and med tech, you know, they're both areas where, you know, we have a huge, should we say, we've got quite often a poor demographic in terms of obesity, in terms of poor lifestyle. So the demand for health and medtech is only going to increase. You look at manufacturing, you know, lots of nice things have been done in financial services at the front end, you know, nice user interfaces, nice applications. But what about manufacturing? What about logistics and supply chain? All that tough stuff is in the back end. And again, that's where, you know, they need innovation, they need artificial intelligence, they need better process, they need blockchain, they need all kinds of new innovations. So the opportunity across the UK is significant. I think green tech presents one of those sort of sectors where, you know, literally we're only just starting to scratch the surface. And the UK is miles behind, which means it's a fantastic opportunity for people like yourself, who've understood that sector, should we say, 4 or 5 years earlier than the UK in terms of the importance and in terms of what's coming down the line. So I think the opportunity is massive. But if you look at, in the UK, it's an island, so water and wind all round. So renewable energies should be quite easy. So as a starting for 10, I think it's a fantastic place to be. Well, that's enough of me now. I'd like to introduce our panel. So Zhou, would you like to come to the front? Ben Foulser, Chris Moore and Adam McDonald. Great to have you here. If you just maybe briefly introduce yourselves to the team here, and just, you know, some of you present some rather large and known organisations, but still just give us a little bit of insight in terms of who you are and what you do within your organisation. Do you want to start first?
Yeah, I think as the only female panelist, I knew, I would be the first one to be called out. Hi everyone, so I work at the University of Cambridge Institute for Sustainability Leadership. So I'm a researcher, and also I run and design accelerator program as well. So my research interest is around the circular economy, especially circular entrepreneurship. Really working with those emerging innovators, trying to understand what sort of leadership qualities they need to be successful. And also, we are supported by European public funding, so we have incubator space and we run accelerator program across a wide range around sustainability. But for us, it's more about building this community right at the heart of Cambridge. I think Cambridge is known for innovation in healthcare, in tech, but the next big thing for Cambridge is sustainability innovation. And we are aspired to become the hub or the center for sustainability innovation. Yeah, very lovely to meet all of you.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Chris Moore. I'm a technology specialist working for the Department of International Trade, and I'm actually based near Cambridge. What do? I support companies that are looking to set up in the UK for the first time, or if they're already here to expand their existing business. I come right across the tech spectrum, so it's all those areas like AI, data science, and IoT. But increasingly, these technologies are being used to generate opportunities in sectors like sustainability, and therefore I talk to a lot of companies which are green tech, and therefore I'm advising them on where in the UK would be a good location. And increasingly, Stefan's points, those companies are very interested in other parts of the UK. And as an illustration of that, I was in Birmingham yesterday, last week I was in Manchester, and there are many, many different options to choose from. Thank you.
You?
Hi, I'm Foulser. I'm a director in KPMG's infrastructure practice, and I used to live in Cambridge. So clearly the epicenter of the world in East Anglia. I lead a team that specialises in future mobility, but also net zero work. So clean tech is very close to my heart. And as a company, I tend to sit on the larger side of the deals space with big infra, but we have an enterprise team within KPMG that specialises in seed to large enterprise. And that's a whole range of different solutions, from corporate finance, tax, accounting, through to consultancy services in terms of helping to define product propositions and go-to-market strategies. This is of particular importance to me because the work that we've been doing over the last 2 or 3 years to help develop net zero strategies for big infra relies on people like yourselves. We won't achieve those without your businesses. So it's absolutely critical to me that we not only support the big infra providers, but also the people who are going to enable big infra to deliver that journey. So it's great to meet you all. Thank you.
Very good. Hello.
So I met some of you yesterday when I opened the event, but just to recap, my name's McDonald. I'm a managing director within Skanska UK, so a large construction and development organisation. Obviously with a name like Skanska, we're from Sweden, so we've got the UK office here, which you're all in today. I'm not from Cambridge actually, so maybe I'm odd out on the panel here. I live in North London, so not too far away from here really. But in terms of Skanska, we've got our commitment to net zero, and it's through things like this actually that the innovation that it sparks and the collaboration between large, really well-established players like Skanska is within the industry to help innovate and tackle that challenge. That's what we really need. Because actually there's not a huge amount of innovation that happens within construction and large infrastructure. We really need really good SMEs to help us get there. There's a few things that we back, and like I said, we created a startup to make this one of the most intelligent buildings within the UK. That's a kind of pilot scheme that we're on, because we're trying to do that to drive our carbon agenda and the efficiency. But largely we need the collaboration, so that's really important for us as a large provider.
Very good, thank you. So maybe some opening question for everybody in the panel. If you could just, from your organization's perspective, draw a picture of what's the state of UK green tech today, and where do you think UK green tech is going to be in the next, let's not say 5 years, let's just say 5 years. Do you want to start off with that?
Happy to do that. But yeah, I think assessment is, and then green tech, in the UK is quite a broad sector as well. So I think the first question I would ask is, what is this industry is trying to achieve? What the problem is trying to solve? And And if I, just from my perspective, I really look into the green tech, I can see two camps. One is the green tech, which is at the heart of this low carbon transition. It's in energy sectors. And then there's another camp, is around the circular economy, probably is a bit more emerging one. And then, so the first one, if I could just break down, the first one in the energy sectors, I think it's doing pretty well. UK, there's something serious going on. For example, there's UK legislation, net zero by 2050. That is written in the law. B, last year at COP26, UK, basically Boris Johnson, Prime Minister, launched the breakthrough venture, the energy breakthrough, sorry, the Glasgow breakthrough.
Yeah.
Got third time lucky. So basically that Glasgow breakthrough is really trying to turbocharge the energy or the clean tech or green tech uptake. So the biggest challenge over there is not technology. Technology is viable, is commercially viable as well, but it's more about the uptake. And but then if we move on to the circular economy, I think it's really at its infancy, and there's a lot of challenges around that. Everyone talking about is an easy concept, turning from linear economy, make use, to something circle. But the problem, the biggest challenge is this reverse logistics. How are you gonna get stuff back? Especially it's not economically viable to get it back. The second challenge is a lot of them moving from selling products to providing the service, what we call the service over ownership. But then for those sharing platforms, they're really asset heavy. So for those, the biggest challenge is when they get investment, how they're gonna talk to investors on their balance sheet. Those valuable stuff, the heavy upfront investment is depreciated, down the balance sheet. How you change that? So those are all big, challenges for the startup in this area. I think, that's my kind of observations or reflections, for this sector.
So from my perspective, building what you just said, the Prime Minister did announce a 10-point plan to drive green industrial revolution. But I think the more significant part is the fact that it's accompanied by a £1 billion innovation fund. Beyond that, there's lots of funding for early stage companies that are coming to the UK that set up here to access. So through initiatives like the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund, which has a number of themes which reflect sustainability, and also distinct other separate programs. So our colleagues at Tech Nation run a program which is called Net Zero, which is about supporting technologies that are going to be addressing sustainability. So it's a great environment for early stage companies to grow and to thrive with all these funding and support mechanisms. But beyond that, I think we see now distinct communities and expertise, and we'll probably come back to this later, but for instance, the northeast of England around Newcastle and places in Scotland, so very strong in both sustainability driven technologies and also for the circular economy.
Very good.
So, interestingly, 2021, the second largest place that clean tech deals were done was London, globally, just falling behind San Francisco. So clearly we're certainly not lacking in the clean tech investment area. But within the UK, actually, to Chris's point, it's becoming fairly well distributed fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So we have London obviously being the lead, but actually shortly behind it is Scotland, with its 2045 ambition, or commitment actually, that's been enshrined. And then Yorkshire and Humber, northeast, and then followed by the southeast. So we're seeing a good distribution of clean tech investment across the country, which is excellent. A disproportionate amount still seems to be going to mobility and transport. I think that's quite an interesting challenge for me, and it kind of reflects the difficulty in the decarbonisation of that sector. But actually, it is at the risk of not funding things that really should be being looked at more seriously. And buildings and agri-tech are two of the things I think have a significant decarbonisation opportunity that aren't seeing as much of that funding as we'd like to see in the UK. I think my other reflection, just quickly before handing on, is that absolutely it's a fantastic opportunity to invest in the UK at the moment. we have got a very challenging 6 carbon budget we're going into. We need solutions, and we need solutions now. And we're in that wonderful stage where there is capital looking for good quality ESG investments. And certainly, especially with the sustainable financial disclosures regime coming in, we're going to see more and more pressure for people to look at what's in their balance sheet, what's in their portfolios, and are they investing in things that have a good sustainability credential. Just from my personal perspective, one thing I would say that I mentioned mobility and transport as being a sort of over-invested area. There is one part of that is under-invested, and I think creates a real opportunity in the UK, which is shipping and maritime. The Prime Minister launched his 2050 Clean Maritime Strategy last year, and has some very ambitious targets for investment. And a lot of the type of solutions that are going to be required in maritime are also required domestic and industrial sort of heat and energy decarbonisation as well. So it's not just an isolated area to look at, but we need to look at how things transition.
I mean, there's been so much kind of covered by kind of more experts within their field, but I'll just give a lens, kind of a different lens to it. I think what we've heard from the whole panel is there's huge momentum behind what's going on, whether that's government backing things or whether that's the bills coming through. And I think that's really challenging everybody at the moment within industries to think differently. And I'll come back to a Skanska perspective. And it's around kind of where can you find those partners to collaborate to meet the challenges of what's been set by either certain laws or legislation, etc. So there is momentum rolling. I think that would probably accelerate it through the pandemic as well, actually. I think there was this need to do something better for society within the country that came through. And so I think that's where we see the kind of the investment flow in terms of green technology and how that can unlock some of the challenges that we face because of what's been set out in front of us. So I think momentum is the term I would use most.
Very good, very useful. You all also mentioned like some of the regional strengths that are being developed at the moment. I live in Yorkshire. Yorkshire and the Humbers. So the Humbers actually the area in the UK that is the biggest polluter, but also the biggest energy generator in the UK. They always say, like, if the Humber gets flooded, London will go dark, and that's not a lie. But at the same time, there's a huge opportunity in that region now because you've got companies like Siemens or Foulser who have invested, millions and billions into facilities, not because it's a nice thing to do, it's because there's money to be made. So obviously there's a significant commercial opportunity in an area that was previously, should we say, lacked development, lacked investment, lacked some prosperity. So what are the other areas? I mean, you mentioned the North East, but any specific sectors or capabilities that you've seen across the UK in regards to energy, in regards to carbon capture, in regards to mobility? I mean, there's so many different subsectors. Anything that you see we start with?
Yeah, go with this first.
With Adam, maybe?
I'll park some of those bits that you raised.
That's fine, that's fine.
I'm going to come at it from a mindset of you're starting up as a business at the moment. So all of you are startups, you're progressing, you're trying to scale, but with the funding behind you, what like we talked about, and the willingness, it's where do you go with that at the moment? I think it's a really exciting time within the UK. There seems to be hubs appearing all over the country at the moment. You've mentioned Cambridge is one of them. There's Oxford. There's different hubs which focus on different areas. But from a startup perspective, there's quite some exciting things going on with the developers or owners of big like shopping centres or town centres within the country where they're looking at certain rate breaks to get the startups in. Because there's this willingness, and it happened down the road just from here in Old Street, where if you create an environment where you bring loads of startups together, you create that innovation. It's amazing what spins off the back of that in terms of leisure, in terms of social, and actually scaling up hubs. You're starting to see that some of the big developers in London offering really attractive rates in places that you wouldn't normally go to, but they really want to encourage that innovation to come into the town centres, city centres. So I would say there's a huge opportunity there actually.
Very good.
So I was looking through the profiles of the companies here and thinking, how do I tailor this as best possible? Because of course there are so many actually really exciting opportunities. You mentioned CCUS, carbon capture, utilisation and storage is one of those. I'm not sure anyone here focuses on that, but it is a massive area, and there are competitions at the moment. So Bayless is going through its competitions to fund the CCUS providers in the stage 1 competition. Thinking specifically around some of the companies here, I mean, one of the companies, I think Lava, in agri-tech and intelligent lighting solutions. Actually, I think that's an area that's going to be growing significantly in the UK, driven by consumer demand as much as anything else. And we've already seen some really exciting things happen in the last year in Scotland. So in Edinburgh, we had Intelligent Growth Solutions, who received, I think it was about 54 million funding, and Enough in Glasgow, which is a vegan protein producer. And we're starting to see more and more exciting things like that. Even in London, disused tube tunnels are being turned into hydroponics or agri-tech. So I think we're going to start seeing more of the agri-tech business coming through. And it's not just the hydroponics type environments. I was involved, we helped York and North Yorkshire, again, going back to the North East, we helped York and North Yorkshire with its business case for its devolution deal. And part of that devolution deal was to get funding for agri-tech businesses and IoT in farming. So how do we improve efficiency and reduce biodiversity loss through farming? And so I think that's a really exciting opportunity. I think sort of linked to that, Chris mentioned that we've obviously got the this piece around where do we look for investment, and those devolution deals are actually quite important. We're starting to see funding being pushed out of central government departments, out into the regions, and a number of those will include funding for startups and ventures in those local areas. So we have what we call local enterprise partnerships in the UK, and those LEPs are there to help channel that funding into startups in the regions. So I think that's a really exciting opportunity for everyone here. It's not just on the agri-tech side, but everyone else here. Start looking at where can we link into those LEPs? Where are those little hubs starting to appear, whether it be in automotive in the West Midlands, whether it be in agri-tech in Scotland, whether it be, or in North East, whether it be in CCUS, and starting to link into those chambers of commerce, those local enterprise partnerships in those regions.
Very good.
So a few general points first. The UK is very fortunate in the respect that we have a series of national innovation centres called catapults. The idea is you take your idea and go something like that anyway. But there is one in energy systems, there's another one in renewables, and there's a whole series of them in manufacturing. So as you begin to look at different interests of the companies here, I think some of those would resonate. In Scotland, however, there's a whole series of further innovation centres, funded by the Scottish Government. One in particular that springs to mind is called Census, which is the Centre for Sensors and Imaging Systems. So all around IoT, and they in turn work with the energy sector, manufacturing sector, etc. So there are those building blocks, but in addition to that, there are some very specific locations. We talked a little bit about Scotland. I would totally reinforce that point because I think Scotland is a fantastic location for any company that's interested in the energy sector. Secondly, for those of you who are more interested in that kind of urban environment, smart cities, and circular economy, then Newcastle was voted the #1 smart city in the UK in 2021. So it has a phenomenal focus on that, and a number of assets around what is known as the Newcastle Helix, which is a centre which is linked also to the university. And finally, I would say if you're thinking about, well, two things. Manufacturing, think about the West Midlands. It is very much the focal point, and again, I was in Birmingham yesterday hearing the West Midlands Growth Company talking about all the initiatives to support manufacturing and other sectors. And the final one, specifically for agri-tech, I would think about the east of England, not Cambridge, Lincolnshire. Because Lincolnshire has what we call a high potential opportunity designation, which means it's a less well-known environment, but is very strong with technology for the agri sector.
Yeah, brilliant. I think it's just Chris mentioned about manufacturing. I think I would just add on the remanufacturing. So again, this is putting on the circular economy lens, and this is worth billions of dollars globally. Remanufacturing, big manufacturers. I was having a conversation with a guy from Rolls-Royce yesterday. They were completely shifting to that service model, and they sell their big engine to Airbus just at the cost level, and they provide the service maintainers, and that drive a new kind of income stream as well. So, and Tech UK did a study last year. So they estimate remanufacturing, the investment in the UK is worth £5 billion pounds. So that's definitely something to look into. And in that, Glasgow breaks through the initiative. There are 5 sectors, the UK government particularly looking to as the phase 1 goes. They are power, road transport, and then steel, and then hydrogen, and last one is the agriculture. And hydrogen is very interesting at IFM, the University of Cambridge. Stephen Evans, we were talking about, Professor Stephen Evans, he worked with a startup called River Simple. So they combine the hydrogen and the service model all together. It looks really cool. So for them, they only sell the service. So they sell mobility rather than the car, and then they use the hydrogen to power their vehicles. And then given I'm from Cambridge, I feel like I have to say something on behalf of Cambridge, and I wondered if we can flick the slides to probably the next one. I did bring a photo here. I don't know what it is. Next one, sorry. So this is the exciting thing coming up in Cambridge, and so what we call it is this Utopia building, but essentially we do have an incubator space as part of that. So Cambridge is known, as I talked about, Silicon Valley in the UK, but the next big thing is the sustainability innovation, and we are kind of like this Cambridge ecosystem that we're setting up this incubator space, what we call a canopy. And that is the space, basically we're trying to build this community, and then to, fostering the leadership and also bring the network to all the startups, really build upon CISL's expertise of working with the corporate, financial sectors, and the policymakers. So there you go. If you do think somewhere beyond London, 45 minutes away from King's Cross, that is the center of...
Very expensive rail journey.
Yes, it is #1 Regent Street in Cambridge. It is.
Very good. Any questions from the audience for our panelists? If not, I've got another one. No?